Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of the Just a Kick It Is a Blessing podcast with your host, Keith Tupac Gatiramu. Today's a very, very special episode. I have two amazing guests in the studio with me. But before I get to introducing my guests, I just want to remind you that today's episode is brought to you by the Healthy Hub. So just have a look at them online or on social media and check out the amazing range of products that they have. So without further ado, I will let my guests introduce themselves, starting with the one on the left.
Hi, I'm Brenda. I'm 21, still in university, and passionate about mental health, which is why we're here today to talk a bit about that.
My name is Pauline. I am 20, a law student at Strathmore University, and I'm a very passionate mental health advocate and very excited to be here today.
Thank you so much, both of you, for coming to the studio. Before we get into today's topic, I'd just like you guys to tell us a little bit about your organization, within and without. And I think that's how I met you guys. First of all, even before you tell us about it, it's an amazing logo you guys have, Did you do that yourself, or did you have someone create it for you?
Yeah, we made it ourselves.
All right, so what's within and without, for those who don't know?
Okay, for starters, Within and Without is a mental health page, soon to be organization. And
we're definitely waiting on that.
Yes. Yeah. So I'll start with the story behind the name. So it's from a movie. It's called The Great Gatsby. And in this scene, Gatsby and the character, sorry, I've forgotten his name, but they were partying in a hotel room and they were doing a lot of different sorts of drugs, and with women, drinking a lot and just dancing around and having a good time. But now this character, he was conflicted as to whether he was actually having a good time or he was just wasting away his life and just these moments. So he looked outside the window and he saw himself, and inside the room, of course, he was wearing his, his club outfits, but outside he was wearing a very nice suit and looking very sharp. And then he asked himself, I was within and without, simultaneously repelled and enchanted by the variety of life. So I thought that was, so powerful, because in life there's so much that is available, but you have to be very careful as to what you absorb and what you just have to move on from. And so I thought it related so much with mental health, because there's a lot in life that we take in, and you have to choose whether you're going to take this in a positive way or negative way, or choose whether you're actually going to take this in or you're just going to move on and let it go. So a bit about the organization. We started in 2018. We'll tell you a bit about our personal stories, but we decided to start the organization just for people to reach out to us, and also for us to connect to all sorts of people, and just talk more about mental health, rewrite the history that has clearly made it, something very stigmatized and shameful. And we wanted to change that to, normalize mental health in a way that you're able to talk about it very comfortably and in a very, in a very informal way, but also in a very sensitive way, because a lot of people tend to speak about mental health in just with so much vulgar and anger and hate. So something that can be, simple and loving, and just to create a community that, expresses with each other well around mental health.
Okay, that's nice to hear about that. So on to the next question. I wanted to find out, you both said you're passionate about mental health. So I wanted to find out what motivates you, or what motivated you to start the organization, and what motivates you to keep going. You see, like for me, I have a personal story behind why I started the podcast. So I'd like to know, what's your personal story, or what's your drive towards something people have run away from?
Okay, for me, it's mostly stems from personal experience, some own personal experience with different aspects and elements of mental health from a young age. So what you said, especially about what people run away from, I also did. I still do sometimes, but I also did, and it never goes away, at all. So we kind of figured it's better to just try and find a way to address that, or to just encourage people to address it rather than to run away from it and then have it come up later in worse ways. So, yeah.
You can never run away from your problems. In fact, the faster you run, the faster they catch up with you.
And they catch up to you worse.
Trust me, I that one I know so well. The more you try to run, it just catches up with you, and I think it even gets worse. Like, was it today or yesterday? I saw a quote that was saying that, like, when God tries to teach you a lesson and you don't learn, the lesson becomes 2 times harder, then 3 times harder, then 4 times, until eventually you're like, okay, this is the lesson. I need to learn it. Yeah. So what motivates you? What's your personal story behind the whole mental health journey?
I've kind of experienced it from a young age. I've struggled with an eating disorder since I was about 13, around there. So that still fluctuates. I also entered into a sort of depressive episode in my early teenage. Okay, I guess I'm not a teenager anymore. In my early teenagehood, and I didn't cope with it well at all, and I went through a lot of negative experiences. So if I felt at least if I could try to help someone else, maybe just by sharing my story or by just providing different solutions or helping people to know that they're not alone, because that's something that mental health does. It convinces you that you're by yourself and that everything is just terrible. So if we could try to change that anyway to help anybody, then that's what drives us forward. And even in sharing my story, people have reached out to me and be like, I felt the same thing, and it just creates a sense of community and love and all of that.
Actually for me, the craziest thing I've realized is when you share your story, like, you actually realize you're not in it alone. Like, ever since the first day I started this podcast, like, till now, I think, like, almost more than 100 people have reached out to me. And I think, like, the first 3 episodes I did, people I didn't know were there, like, telling me their personal stories. And I was like, wow, like, you actually realize that there's so much going on, but because we're all ashamed of it, and it's ego, I think. Ego is playing a big part in it. So no one ever talks about it, And I think what you're doing about, like, addressing it, it means that we can destigmatize it, Yeah, Pauline, what about you?
Okay, my story. I guess for me, I didn't really know anything about mental health before 2018. Like, it was like learning a new subject. But it all started when my brother passed away, and it was when I finished high school.
Yeah.
And so my next step obviously was university, but I did not know where I was going to university. I did not know how to even go about trying to understand how to go about it. Like, I was at point 0 in my life, and I had no hope, no idea, and I was just at home every single day, confused, just in bed, and I was a bit depressed, not going to lie. I was very out of it. I was very, very sad and very confused. And ever since then, I've started to realize a lot of weird traits and a lot of weird tendencies, a lot of anxiety attacks, a lot of insomnia, a lot of panic attacks, especially in social gatherings.
Yeah.
And I guess from then on, I just realized, this is actually a real thing, and it's with me now, and I need to first, try and understand what is happening. So at one point I was in school and I was fed up with trying to figure it out myself. So I tried and call a psychiatrist hospital. I don't remember exactly which one it was.
It's okay, you don't have to tell us.
Yeah, that would
also
bad.
To save them.
Okay. But I was just inquiring about, the rates for therapy and, how they go about it and so on. And the way she addressed me, first of all, she was very rude. I feel like if you have a mental health organization, you should be a very upbeat person, very caring person. But it was like, we're talking like a business transaction. So I didn't really feel like there was even any
sort of love.
There was no love. She didn't actually want to help me. She was just there to do her job, be paid, and go home. So after that, I was like, damn, that's the way it is in Kenya. And I realized that that's the way it is for a lot of institutions. Even in schools, they don't take mental health seriously. The counselors, they don't do their job,
Yeah.
So I started to just, we just sat down with Brenda and we're like, we need to do something about this, because there are we just can't let this slide. We are also going through so much. And so we started to support each other, and then we decided to also just try and support other people, yeah? So a lot of people came and started telling us their stories, and then we started to realize how much their stories related to ours. And, you know, when you're going through mental illness, I don't know why our brains just tend to isolate ourselves and we tend to like lie to ourselves that you know, you're alone and it's you and it's too late. So once we realize that, you know, everyone has a story and everyone has a past and everyone has, you know, something they're going through. And so, yeah, we just decided to create this page and just to create a new space, you know, a space filled with love and comfort where people can easily just talk to anyone and, you know, just ask us for advice. And if it's advice that we're not able to address, you know, we connect them to people that we know who are, you know, professional and more equipped to be able to help them. Yeah.
Like you said, I think the like one reason why we tend to like isolate ourselves or, you know, put ourselves that is like you feel ashamed. Yeah. And like I'm telling you, like ego is the worst thing ever. Especially, you know, at least for you, like for at least the like women, it's not as bad as for us men, you know. Yes.
Okay.
I feel like in here,
It depends.
Yeah.
sometimes that ego is high.
It's high, yeah.
So high.
Yeah, but like, you know, for us, like especially see the way society has already brought up men, we already like tend to be strong and anything. So you never want to, you know, to see a man cry, you know, like even when I look back at it, like on my grandmother's funeral, which was on my dad's side, I didn't see my dad shed a tear, you know. He was that guy trying and, you know, like, you know, try to run things. But you could definitely see he was in pain. You get? And, you know, that was his only parent. So you could definitely know that he was in pain. But because of that whole society upbringing, you could see him, you know, try and run away from it. And I think that brings me to my next question. What do you think, or what do you think is the whole thing about men and mental health? Like, I think there's a very big problem towards men and mental health. And why do you think that the men are suffering more? The men are the ones committing suicide more than, you know?
I think a big part of it is what you said, society, the way it brings them up, it expects them to be. It's so rigid and in such a manner that they don't have any space, anywhere to turn to for this help, you know? So if, like you said, a guy crying or a guy reaching out to a friend and be like, hey, yeah, by the way, I'm not feeling well, I'm feeling quite down. It's like, okay, but why? What's, you know, like, what's wrong with you? They're made to feel like something is wrong with them rather than something that's going on with them. Yeah, I think that's a very big factor. And then I also think that because of that, it allows the situation to get worse rather than them addressing it and getting help earlier. So they end up possibly way, way, way lower, and thus leading to higher suicide rates and all, amongst other factors. But yeah.
What about you, Pauline? What do you think?
I completely agree. There's actually a statement, the forgotten boy child.
Yeah.
So I think in that statement, what they're trying to say is even everything to do with mental health, they've forgotten about the guy. They always just think about the girls because, you know, we're the emotional ones. I don't know what. But there's actually something that Kanye said the other day. We need to, normalize that emotions are both masculine and feminine. It is not just feminine. And I think the problem is, because of you guys, the way men are brought up. And it still goes far in history. That's why it's so hard to change. The whole thing of patriarchy, patriarchy rules almost the whole world for a very long time. And within that, obviously, men were always on the move, always working, always hustling, and the women were the ones at home, taking care of the children. And so they didn't have that time to actually sit down and, just express themselves.
Reflect on how they feel.
Yeah, exactly. So even now, you find, if you just walk in the street and you see a guy crying, you'd be like, come on, man up, wear your balls. I'm sorry, you can cut that out.
No, it's okay. It's a free space. You can cuss, don't worry. Yeah.
So, I guess it's all in the history, and I don't know who started it or why they started it like that, but maybe it's came from even Adam. I don't know the fact that you can. But it's a very difficult topic. But I feel like now people are talking. Yeah, I feel like times are changing. What is that statement of, the heterosexual male? You guys are starting to take care of yourself well. Using feminine products and
it's okay.
products. Taking care of your skin and hair and whatnot. Happening.
My manicures, my pedicures.
Exactly. Exactly.
Take care of yourself, man. Self-love is important.
Very important.
Like I think I was listening to something the other day, and I was saying like the main problem with the men and mental health is like, think about it. When you were a child, or if you had two people the same age, the girl and the boy, and the boy fell down, you'd tell the boy, get up, stop crying, man up. When the girl falls down, you'll bring her close, tell her, no, it's okay to cry.
Exactly.
You'd wipe her tears, you'd wipe her bruise if she's bruised, But the man is told, what are you doing? And you see, that's put in your subconscious before you even grow up. So imagine you grow up with that, And the other day when I was like taking a walk with my dad, one of the things we were talking about is a lot of the things that influence your behavior that are in your subconscious. You don't think about it, but they're playing such an important role in like, who you are and, why you behave in certain way. And you see, like you said, like even for me, what I've started to do is I'm starting to go back to the roots of a lot of my issues and a lot of my behavior to understand why I behave in a certain way, and when I talked to someone about it the other day, and like they were explaining to me, see, a lot of this happens because when you look at it between this age and this age, this happened. And now you're reactive about it. But you've never tapped into that subconscious part of your brain to, to really understand it. But anyways, to the next question, like I always ask this to all of my guests when they come here is, what do you think the relationship between social media and mental health is? Because for me, I feel like there's a very big relationship.
Yeah. The relationship can be good and it can be bad, but I feel like the bad is overpowering the good sometimes. In that social media is, it's a very scary place. There is a lot of hatred, a lot of abuse, a lot of bullying. And above all that, there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of comparing each other. There's a lot of, only posting the good and never posting the bad. So you never actually connect with people on a deeper level. You connect on this superficial level
Surface.
of exactly everything is perfect and my life is amazing. So, I mean, it's difficult. Like, it's a very tricky place because even if I was to go there and post of this and this happened, this terrible thing happened to me, I'm so miserable, I'm sad, people can take it in the wrong way. People can be like, oh, she's just seeking attention. The way people are on Twitter and on Instagram and everything, people will just take it in a negative way and then make the situation worse for that person. And this whole comparing thing, it can make your situation worse because let's say, I'm conflicted about my body image and I'm following a bunch of models who are just, to my eyes are perfect and I want to be like that person. So I start all these negative coping skills in order to achieve that. But obviously I'm looking for the easy way out. I'm not patient enough to go to the gym every day and actually, create myself in that way because you want that today and you want it now. Whether it's that phone that person has, you want it now. So it just continues in your subconscious, the way you absorb all that information, the way you speak to yourself, the way, you just take care of yourself as well. It becomes just very detrimental to your mind, to your health, to your body, just to everything. Yeah.
What about you, Brenda?
Yeah, I agree with Pauline. Especially on the comparison things, I think that really alters your reality, especially depending on who you follow. Because I remember I was following, I think it was Kylie Jenner or something, and she has all these cars and like the perfect body, and I was like, okay, wait, we're like the same age. Honestly. I'm not seeing a car in my backyard. I'm not seeing these things. I'm like, okay, but then I have to sit back and be like, okay, wait, you're two very different people in two very different situations. But then at the instant that it happened, I immediately went to compare myself without recognizing that. So I think that's something very dangerous. And I also think that
I think Kylie needs to get off Instagram. A lot of people have complained about her. Like even in the podcasts I listen to,
it's always Kylie.
She's always given as the example for comparison, especially like amongst women.
Oh, yeah,
like it's crazy. Yeah, I think Instagram needs to ban her right now.
She's made enough
Just for a
money.
bit, just for a bit.
like even like 2 days, you know.
2 days, give us some time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you just fall into all these comparisons and this altered reality, and also what you said of people only post their best times. So you compare someone's best time to maybe your worst, and then you just make that situation completely worse for yourself. But then there's also the other side of where social media can be very good and very beneficial, and that depends on who you follow, and when you regulate what you take in, which is very important. A friend taught me that. So if you regulate what you take in and you're taking in good information and beneficial things, then I think social media can be very supportive. Yeah.
For me, like, I totally agree. And like, even from the first podcast I ever did was just a boy who approached me and was like, I wish I could be like you. And I'm like, yo, what do you mean, you know? And this time I'm out there. So I'm like, yo, let's sit down, you know? And once I sat down with him and I got to talk to him about it, I realized like I'd been selling a whole facade, you know? Because at that point of my life, I didn't even want to be me myself, you know? And I feel like you said, like, sometimes you just want to show people the good, you know?
Yeah.
And for me, I actually see that when a lot of people break up. Like, you're trying to show your other half, you know, that you're doing better.
I'm
Yeah, you know, I'm okay, you know, like, I still got
You're
bitches,
loved,
you know.
you know?
But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you know, like, deep down, you're like, fuck, man, this life, it's tough, you know. And I feel like for me, that, like, that point of my life, you know, that's what was happening, you know. And, you know, from that day, like, you know, I took a step back and was like, yo, you know, like, is this the kind of, you know, person you want to be? Like, selling this whole, like, you know, fake life to someone when deep down, you know, you're actually suffering, you know. So I think, like, it's important. And what you also said about the good is, like, I've also learned to start following a lot of pages about, you know, positivity, you know, good quotes and all that. And you find, like, in the morning, you know, they like lighten up your day, you know.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of social media is also very subconscious. You know, it's like eating junk food. You don't know the effect it has on your body, and you know, until it's too late, you know. So I think that's what, you know, social media does. Like, even some days, have you ever just been on your phone and you see something and it just makes you unhappy and you don't understand why?
It changes your mood completely.
Yeah, you know. Yeah, like, even for me, there's like days I'm like, why did I have to see that snap?
Honestly.
Huh?
Like, was it necessary?
Or like, come on, God. Like, I've woken up with so much sight. Like, please, like, literally, was that the first, you know?
That had to see.
Yeah, like, I never understand it. But anyways,
I also think, okay, with social media, there's something that someone said that, you know, there's food for your body and there's food for your soul.
Yeah.
So with social media, it's very important, as Brenda said, to be very vigilant as to what you're taking in, and also take breaks. I mean, people are on their phones 24/7. Yeah, that's not good. You know, see life, enjoy nature, and, you know, feed your soul with positive stuff. Yeah.
I think social media is stealing away from our lives, man, because you want to show someone the moment even before you've lived the moment yourself. You know, it's crazy. The first thing you go somewhere like, wow, you're taking, you know, like, you haven't even, like, you know, and that's what my dad keeps on telling me. Is like, you're taking your phone to work, you haven't even enjoyed the moment, you know. And I feel like for me, a lot of the days where I don't snap or do anything a lot is actually those days that, like, I know I've literally enjoyed the moment by myself. But you know, before actually we get to that question, I wanted to ask you guys, I'd actually like to hear your opinions on this, being, you know, involved in that and hearing a lot of people's stories concerning the different things they faces. I think it was by Johnny Depp. I don't know. I can't remember. But the quote said, depression is your avatar telling you you're playing out of character.
Damn.
I think I heard that.
That's deep.
What do you think? Like,
I think
in regards to your experience or what you've heard from other people, what do you think?
You said your avatar playing out of character.
It's your avatar telling you that you're playing out of character.
I think depression it's very deep, there's a lot of different things that can cause it. So on one hand, I see where that plays in.
Yeah.
Because if you're constantly trying to live a life or do things that just don't align with yourself, you know, you're going to be unhappy because that's not you. So that's when now the depression sets in to kind of be like, hey, you know, something's off. You're not enjoying yourself. You're not doing what's good for you. This isn't us. So I see that part. But then I think depression is also a lot deeper, and there's a lot more intrinsic and further meanings, where there's also other aspects where it's not just maybe you not living how you want to live, because you can be doing the best things and living your life the best way you want to, but you're still going to end up depressed for maybe a bunch of other different reasons. So I think it's both ways.
Yeah. What about you, Pauline?
Just repeat the statement. Depression?
Depression is your avatar telling you that you're playing out of character, like you're not being you.
Yeah, I feel like with almost all mental illnesses, the voice in your head changes and it becomes very dark and manipulative. So it does make sense, the whole statement, but as Brenda said, yeah, it is deeper than that. It's very deeper than the surface, because with depression, it's like you're falling in a hole. Like the further you fall, the harder it is to climb out. So I don't really understand the statement. Like, is it saying that depression is telling you that?
It's like, what I understood from the statement was like depression is basically you not being your true and one self.
And then the depression happening as a result of that.
So that's as a result of you not being your true and one self, that's why you get depressed. So it's like your avatar trying to pull you back into being character.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But I feel like life is a journey. At the end of the day, you can't completely know your true and one self.
True.
And it also changes.
Yeah, and it changes. Yeah. Every step that you take, it might even change. So that's very, very interesting. I need to think more on that, actually. I haven't observed it nicely.
Yeah, there's no problem.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Wow. For me, when I look at the points where I've been at my lowest, I think in some way it was me running away from who I was, or me not being my true self. So it literally it came to haunt me. But then I feel like even sometimes when you believe that you're being your true self, you still have those days.
Yeah.
So I partially agree with it, but a lot, probably 90% agree with it. But that's my opinion, and that's based on my personal experience, because the times when I've even done things to impress other people and the outcome has been bad, that's already me running away from that person. So to some extent, I totally agree with it. I feel like the more you run away from yourself, I think the more you dig the hole you get.
Yeah.
So instead of running up, you're running, down.
That way.
Yeah, but like you said, there's other, there's other things, when you say you lose someone or something, you can automatically be depressed. It's not that you've run away from who you are.
Yeah.
It's just that event in your life has, triggered that, But at the end of the day, I also think the best way to deal with some of these issues is, I know what I've tried to understand about life is good and bad will happen. That's life. Life is, it's like that thing. Yeah. It goes good, it goes bad, it goes good, it goes bad. And I think once you understand that, I think events stop really affecting you. Personally, me, I'm an emotional person, and I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I really hate the fact that I'm an emotional person. But then what I've learned to understand is when I go now back and do this study of life, and try to understand things and my behavior, it gets a bit easier with what I have, to deal with. Something, bad happens to me, but I'm in a more better position than I was to deal with it than the Tupac for maybe 3-4 years ago. Yeah, so that's what I think. And I don't know if you guys have anything to say on that.
I agree with that. That once you accept that life, it's not always going to be good. There's good and bad. It always goes back. And when you see the value also in the bad. Then that, I think it just puts you a step higher to deal with everything a lot better. And
I think for me, like you said, there's actually good in the bad.
Yeah, there's so much.
It's just we only look at the bad in the bad. Yeah. And for me, when I went through my darkest period, I kept on asking God, why me? Instead of like, what do you want me to learn from that? I don't go to like church every day, but I believe like there's a higher being. And no cap, that guy is always coming through for me.
Same.
Always like some things happen in my life and I cannot explain. I just know like, the man upstairs is like, yo, you deserve this one. You deserve this one. Yeah, so I kind of look back at it and I was like, why me? Instead of like, what do you want me to learn from this, And now when I look at it, it was like, if certain things did not happen in my life,
wouldn't be the same.
I wouldn't probably be here. I wouldn't have written a podcast because a lot of my podcast I wrote from a point of heartbroken, betrayal, and all those negative emotions, That's why I actually sat down to write the podcast, because I was like, yo, this can be a story to change someone's life. So if none of that happened, I'd be spending my Thursdays waiting for Thursday afternoon to hit the club,
Yeah,
But anyways,
agree with that.
On to the next question. What do you think the relationship between Africans and mental health is?
The African perspective. Africa has a very rich history, and in that history there's also a lot of bad, and one of those things is the view of mental illnesses. So a lot of tribes, a lot of cultures believe that mental illness is, a curse. It's, being possessed
by the demon.
By demons. Like the devil has just attacked you and it's too late. And the worst part is that mentality has tripled 3 times fold, because they've said, first of all, this is very bad, and they've shun you out, number 2, and number 3, they're saying that there's no cure and no solution. So in that, obviously, through all the generations, that was the same, pattern, and that was the same thought. And I mean, the world is changing, it's modernizing, but there's still so much now. There's still tribes which will not bury someone who has committed suicide.
Wow,
they will
I
not
didn't
give
even know
them
that.
a proper send-off. They will not respect them.
Yeah.
And other tribes, I think that was Luo or Luya, one of those, I'm not so sure, but rich inside, like the heart of, the villages.
Yeah.
And also just the whole perspective has grown so much to the point that even today, the way we treat mental health is not the same. The way schools treat mental health, the way people and families talk about mental health, the institutions that are being built so poorly because there's no respect for mental illnesses, no respect for such people. And so they just, shun them. Some cultures used to burn people with mental illnesses and just used to forget about them. And actually, there's actually another tribe that if you have a mental illness, you're not allowed to get married and you're not allowed to have children, because, they think it will just transpire to your children. So they don't want, they just want to cut it off there and then, start afresh, which is very, very terrible. But I mean, times are changing, but even like my parents, my mom is very woke, I'll say that, but my dad is very backward thinking, and we don't always see eye to eye. And one thing is mental illness. And now there was a very deep point in my life where I was just in the depths, and I was very, very suicidal and just sad, and I was fed up with, being Pauline. And so, I'm lucky. I'm one of the lucky few because I actually reached out. So I told my mom, and she's like, yeah, go ask your dad. My dad sat me down. He's like, there's nothing these people can do for you. There's no therapist who can help you. You have to deal with it by yourself. I'm a tuende kwa kanisa. We go to church. So, I feel like once you start a conversation, it's easier. Like, it grows and it really matures in itself. So we continue to have the conversation, and to a point that I see a therapist every Friday now, and he's the one who pays. So I feel like we just need to continue talking about it, like what we're doing. We just need to continue to discuss it, and just to normalize it to the point that people are comfortable with it, and change all that has been wired in their brain, making them think that it's a terrible thing. Yeah.
I mean, if we could change the conversation around the whole, sex with condoms, then I think we can definitely change this conversation,
so funny.
No, but it's true. Like, if you think about it, back then, it was like a whole taboo to talk about that. Nowadays, like, even when you watch like YouTube channels of like Kenyan YouTubers, people are talking about it so openly, so I think it's the same thing with, this whole mental health thing. And wow, how did you gather the strength to actually, say that you need help? Because let me tell you something. Some people would rather like other options than say they need help. Like, I think by the time you actually say you need help, like, I think that requires so much strength.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, for me, number one, I'm very afraid of the afterlife. I'm not going to lie. I don't know what's happening after this, but I'm not ready to find anything. So, I mean, that's kind of funny. But number two, I don't know. That's a very good question. I've always been a very quiet person ever since I was small. I've always figured things out by myself. And when I can't, I ask. So I think I benefited because I have so many people who are close to me who knew what I was going through and who I was comfortable to talk to. So like Brenda, actually, she was the first person I talked to that night. And, you know, when I was in that train of thought, I thought that if I left the world, no one would care, no one would need me. So her response was just perfect. She's like, I cannot live without you. You're, you know, she just gave me so much love. And so I feel like you just need a support system.
Yeah.
That's so cheesy.
Now, that's so cute, man. Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, you just need a support system. Whether you're good or bad, make sure you have a support system. Yeah.
But you know, let me tell you something, yeah. I think as girls, like you guys, like me, no cap, and that's me in this whole journey. May pick up from you, you know, because like for us, like men, like us, the best thing to do is, you know, chop a couple shots of tequila. We'll deal with the problem tomorrow, you know. But you know, you don't deal with it. It's always being postponed because you're looking for the next high you get. But you know, as girls, I admire the strength that it takes to like sit down and, you know, say there's something wrong, you know. And it's not a conversation a lot of people, you know, want to have, you know, like even for me, like sometimes when I sit down, like to admit, first of all, admitting to myself, I think is the hardest thing. And that's what, like, that's strength, you know. But yeah, like there's once I just had to tell myself, you're Tupac, you're actually going down a very dark lane and what you're doing is not right, you know. And you need to actually start finding a way to solve this, you know. And at first, you know, like ego, you're embarrassed, but eventually, you know, you walk through it and everything. Anyways, as we come to the end of this, there's two questions I like to ask my guests. So we'll start with you, Brenda. What's advice you'd give a younger you?
Time. I think I've come to really recognize the value and the significance of time. You know, a lot of the time you sit, when you're in a moment, a particularly bad moment, you're like, this is never going to end, this is terrible, this is just shit. So then, but then eventually, you know, maybe a week passes by and you're like, okay, you know, it wasn't that bad, or I'm here now. And at the time I thought I couldn't be. So to just recognize the value in time and to give yourself time no matter what, to just say, okay, you know, and it's a thing that progresses. So you start with, okay, I'll give myself an hour, I'll give myself a day, a week, and then eventually you look back and maybe months have passed by. So yeah, just time.
Yeah, I think that's so important because, like, no cap, when like I had that like whole like toxic relationship with one of my exes, she's telling me one day we'll sit down and laugh about this.
You're like, never.
And another day I was like, nah, this is too painful. I can never sit down and talk about this. He was like, what the hell is this shorty telling me? But you're like, these days, like I sit back, I'm like, yo, like I actually laugh about it. I'm like, like,
that's true.
I'm like, shit, it wasn't actually that serious, you know. But you know, at that point of your life, you think it was, you know, that serious and everything. What about you, Pauline? What advice would you give a younger you?
I tell my exactly the same thing. Bad times don't last.
Yeah.
There's always a light at the end of the tunnel. I feel like in the moment, as you said, emotions consume you and they lie to you to the point that, you know, you don't see a future. So just being patient and controlling your emotions, because if you don't control your emotions, they control you. And number two is living in the moment. I used to be that Snapchat person, you know, in the club. Kila Mali, I was just taking pictures and videos. I wasn't
They're good for memories, though.
They're good for memories, that's true. But also...
There's a time and a place, I think.
Yeah, that's very true. Just living in the moment. I think that's what I'd have told myself before my brother passed, because, you know, when you lose someone, like you start to, you know, think back to the points that you could have, you know, enjoyed that moment more. You could have been there with them in that exact moment. So just loving unconditionally and
yes,
not regretting it at the end of the day. Just, you've done what you've done, and just continue moving. Yeah, that's what I tell myself.
I wanted to ask you, actually, I've just remembered, was your brother younger or older than you?
Yeah, he was 2.5 years older than me.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm sorry to hear about that. Anyways, what advice would you give an older Pauline? What are you telling your future self?
I tell myself, don't give up.
Yeah.
Don't ever give up. Just continue pushing, and all those dreams and goals that you have, Pauline, they will come true. Yeah, just never give up.
Yeah, what about you, Brenda? What are you telling a future you?
I think two things. The first, it's more things I want to always remind myself, because like you had said, the ego and pride, I think that's something that I struggle a lot with. So I always tell myself, there's a quote, I heard it in a Jay-Z song, I'm not sure where else it was from, but it's, you can't heal what you never reveal. So I like to like hide. And
That's deep.
Yeah, I like to hide behind a lot of things. So I'm like, no, just take the time to sit down and figure out what it is. Otherwise, you're going to backtrack yourself all of the progress that you've done. So that's one. And then another one is, just to live every moment with love. Because if you do that, there's nothing you're going to regret. And you're just going to keep adding good to the world.
Yeah.
And and also that you're just capable of anything, literally. So anything if you put your mind to it and you work at it, then
Do any of you have any last statements? Any party shots?
What would you tell yourself?
Yeah.
Wow. I think I was asked this last week, and I forgot again, Wow. What did I actually say? Okay, but what did I tell myself? Hey, I think I'd tell myself, the answer for the past and the future is the same. Oh my God, how can I forget? But I don't know. What did I tell myself? Wow, that's actually a good question. I've never thought of, I actually answered it. How can I forget, man? It was just last week, not weeks ago, Okay, I think it changes for me every week, but maybe what would I tell myself is, I think be your true self. That's what I tell my past and my future, because I think being my true self has brought me so much happiness, and it's connected me with amazing people. Like there's so many blessings that come your way when you're your true self. But this will probably change next week and someone else. But like you said, life is not static. Exactly. Life is always changing. Yeah. Anything else you guys want to say before we call it a day? Any last piece of advice?
I think for anyone who's maybe going through something, to just, if you can, to reach out to somebody. It doesn't have to be a lot of people. It can be one person, whoever you want to be. Because there's a lot of power in community. And just speaking it out loud or having someone hear that, there's a lot that you can gain from that. And just, I don't know.
I think Brenda said something very important, that you're capable of anything. That is so powerful. I don't know if you guys have watched the movie Lucy.
No.
Okay, well, I don't know, is it true? I don't know. I really hope it's true.
Yeah.
But in the movie, they're basically saying that you only use 10% of your brain.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
it's true.
So there's so much potential in each person. So much. The way I can say I suck at math, there's you just need to practice and practice and practice, and you can become the next whoever that person is.
There's actually places that you go and they allow you to access more than 10. Like if you take certain drugs, they allow you to access more than 10% of your brain.
Yeah, exactly.
I know my parents are probably listening to this, but
I'm not in any way saying that I'll do it, but I'm just saying
no cap. I'm doing it. But before I'm 30, I need to do it.
You need
to
do
no
it?
cap. I just that whole experience, I want to go through it. Like before the age of 30, I have to do that.
I know psychedelics are a lot of
and that's why they say it drives people crazy.
You have to be in a very good headspace to do that.
But the truth is, they also don't want, they
don't want you to.
They like to tie people down. But anyways, I'd like to thank the two of you for taking your time to come and talk to us. And thank you so much for everyone who has taken the time to listen to this. I really appreciate it. Kindly go and check out Within and Without. We'll make sure to share their socials, and see you next week. Bye bye.